Hey everybody, welcome back to Off the Wall. I'm Mike.
And I'm Sol.
And we're welcoming back once again my buddy Vander, Vandarian Hammertongue is rejoining us. Cheers, buddy.
Hello. Sorry, I was supposed to say something when you said that, not just lift my glass. And
No, that's fine. It's very Westerosi of you.
It's a strong bourbon.
There was a lot of lifting glasses this episode, so you're just joining in.
Yeah. I have strawberry kiwi juice with cherry vodka in it. So.
Delicious.
It's very good. It's very good. I want to get drunk, but I want to enjoy it at the same time. Because we're talking about this week's episode of House of the Dragon, and it was a doozy. There was a couple times I paused and just took a deep breath because some stuff happened. We pick up, I think it's 6 years after last week's episode. Damon and Rhaenyra have been married for some time. They have her kids, his kids, and twins of their own with one more on the way, it looks like.
I believe they have 3 children that are Damon and Rhaenyra have 3 children, a 4th that she's pregnant with.
Okay.
If I'm not mistaken.
They're just doing it all the time and just having children as much as they can to be like, see, I can make white-haired babies too. But also we've got Viserys is hanging on with literal threads.
By dear life.
He has literally lasted so long it blows my freaking mind.
It's just, when you consider how often people just die in Game of Thrones, but this guy just will. I mean, does at the end, but he will not die. It's
a creature.
I thought he looked like Gollum last week.
Right. I was like, how did he make it another half decade?
But then now he looks like Gollum mixed with Phantom of the Opera, and yeah. So a lot of things happen in this one. We are now finally starting to see the power struggles are really kicking in because Lord Corlys is probably going to die off screen. I don't know if that was the one thing I was like, I kind of would have liked to have seen that, but I get it. I mean, I don't like off-screen deaths. I like to see things, especially in Game of Thrones, happen, but it is what it is. Sol, what'd you think of this episode this week?
I really enjoyed this episode. They condensed some stuff in the books where they were happening in different years at different times, but they were like, might as well just put it together. So you have the death of 2 people that are in 3 years apart from each other in the books, but happen exactly at the around the same year, around the same time. But man, this episode tears at your heartstrings. Any of the changes that it does it I think for the better, which I've said throughout this whole series. Any book things that is changing from the books, I think it's doing it for the better in this show. And man, you get a moment of some peace that when you read about it in the books, you're like, yeah, they're just doing this to appease Viserys, but it seems like they were actually having some peace, or at least the grown-ups of the situation were having some peace with each other. It was very heartfelt. It was very hard to see Viserys on death's door, knocking right there. But I really, really enjoyed this episode. A few thug tears, but it was a very enjoyable episode. It keeps getting better and better, this show.
Oh, I didn't cry thug tears. I cried sad little girl tears. But we'll get into that in a little bit. Vander, what about you, man? How'd you feel about this week's show?
I thought it was incredible in pretty much every aspect that there is. I love that we're seeing a feud regarding another, not kingdom, it's part of the 7 kingdoms, but the feud about who's going to inherit Driftmark now that Corlys has taken a pretty bad wound on the battlefield. Everybody assumes that he's going to die of his wounds. The Maesters are saying it's not looking good. So who's going to succeed him? I love that they played that into it because it has such huge implications for the Iron Throne and who's really going to be in power, whether it be Rhaenyra and Daemon's side of things or Alicent and her dad's side of things. So the implications of who inherits Driftmark and the Driftwood Throne just play such a huge part in who's going to continue to do well. It's pretty much a death sentence for Rhaenyra if Vaemon somehow inherits his throne. But it kind of levels the playing field if, as the episode showed us, if the Valyrians from Rhaenyra's side inherit that driftwood throne. So I love that they played that in there. The tearjerkers were there; they were real. The CGI for for King Viserys, incredible. He was missing half of his neck, the hole in his face. Like, I thought the effects there were really good. I almost had to turn and look away. It was so disgusting. But everything about this episode, I loved it. It was incredible.
Yeah, there were a couple times I needed to pause and just kind of take a break. Is like it hit me right where, like, when my dad had leukemia, and like having to kind of like watch him kind of just deteriorate over months until he passed, and being in the room when he passed, like, it was hitting a lot of that for me, especially the whole, like, he's just trying to make it one day to the next. He just wants his family to just get along and have some goddamn peace.
Yeah.
So that he's not dying with his family hating each other. And as far as he knows, he passed with everybody getting along. Because he wasn't in the room when everything went to shit. But I'm kind of bummed that Bogz isn't here, because he's been rooting for Paddy Considine the whole season, with good reason. I mean, he has been a stellar actor in every episode, and I think in this episode in particular, he knew it was his last one. He knew he was about to go, and he gave 110% the entire episode. I mean, hats off to him for the
Emmy performance.
Yeah, like just give it to him. Don't even. You don't got to nominate. You don't got to vote. Just hand him the statue. It's fine. Yeah. We're cool with it. Absolutely. And everybody else. I mean, Matt Smith, I feel like, is getting less and less to do every episode, but what he does have to do, he does so well.
Makes it count.
He had like
Papa Damon.
Yeah, yeah. Talk about like I saw a thing today on Twitter that was like, he's not the stepdaddy, he's the daddy that stepped up, and I'm like, yeah. Because when Rhaenyra's boys are about to fight, he's just like, and they
with a finger, just a finger,
and they're just like, yes, stepdaddy, like it just commanded it. I mean, he has, because Laenor was a good man, but I mean, he was kind of a crappy dad. He was never really around. He was always off drinking and wanting to fight and all that. So how did you guys feel about Paddy Considine and as Viserys in this one, as juxtaposed with Matt Smith, kind of our two big male leads in this episode? Vander, we'll start with you.
So I love Paddy Considine did an incredible job from an acting standpoint. King Viserys is so pathetic. Like, he's just, nobody wants to take him seriously. Yes, his family loves him. Daemon loves him. Rhaenyra loves him. I mean, I don't think like Aegon and Aemond really have much love for him, just because, how has he been an influence in their life? Pretty much none at all. Yeah. But aside from that, everyone in the kingdom knows not to take him seriously. They're pretty much just waiting for him to die, because they know shit's going to pop off. They know that he is not leaving behind any kind of structure. Once he goes, they know that shit's going to go down. Nobody takes him seriously. I think that has played a huge part in his. What are you doing, Cookie? His, him just being pathetic it's hard to watch, because he means well. He wants things to go well. He's tried so hard to get, his second wife and his daughter to love each other again as they were when they were girls, and it's just to no avail. And of course, the last thing he does with literally his dying breath is fuck things up. Like, the way he said that to Alicent, it justifiably causes confusion on her end. She believes he's saying one thing when he was really talking about another. Like, just a blunder like that to be the very last thing he does is such a statement on how his life was just pathetic.
I'm actually glad you mentioned that, because I had been wanting to ask you guys that, because I wasn't sure, and I think you confirmed it. So he thought he was talking to Rhaenyra in that moment.
Yeah.
Right? Okay.
Yes.
That's what I thought, because like she's sitting on the side where he has no eyeball. And also, I mean, we saw last week that he already has confused her for his first wife.
Yeah.
So we've seen that happening. So that's what I figured was happening.
He was answering her question from previous.
Yeah.
Like the previous night, when do you believe in this? And so like he's like, oh, she's here to come visit me again tonight, which maybe it's kind of showing that Rhaenyra maybe like by her time there at the castle probably went and saw him every night.
Yeah.
So he's probably just expecting, oh, I'm gonna hear my daughter's voice, and just, at the end, like if you ever um had to have someone in your family or someone with dementia, like
Yeah.
they don't know who they're talking to a bunch of times when they're speaking out loud. So he thinks he's talking to his daughter, and then I think at the very end when Allison leaves, I think he thinks he's talking to Aemma. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and so that's kind of like, hey, I'm joining you.
Yeah.
She was his, I mean, she was his great love. I mean, they made that abundantly clear in the first episode. He loved his wife. He like Damon is all about family. I mean, it's family. It's always been about with these guys. And it also goes to show it's also not just him too. It's also like, look, Rhaenyra, we all know why you named your kid Aegon as a screw you
Yeah.
to Allison. Nice going. Nice. All these names. And you were like, no, let's have the same one as my
Yeah.
as my half brother. It's okay. Well,
He was talking about Aegon the Conqueror, so he was not even. So
Yeah,
he also fucked up by calling his son
it's
Aegon.
all. Look, God, there's so many names out there. Let's just
Yeah.
now Laenor looks a little less crazy for wanting to call his kid Joffrey. I'm just saying.
Right.
I mean, how many Tonys are in Italian families? Or if you've seen My Big Fat Greek Wedding, the Anita, Diane, and Nick goes, oh, and my brother Tati and their kids, Anita, Diane, and Nick. Nick, Nikki. Like,
I mean, there's two mics on this video right now.
Right.
I mean, so, and whenever when Vander comes over to my place to do the podcast, there's 3 mics. So yeah, it's there's a lot of very common names out there. But you'd think when you're in a family that's all about battling for control of a throne, hey, let's make sure there's no confusion over who we're talking about, guys.
You just have to add the older and the younger to it.
Yeah. But also, like I said, I also want to talk about Matt Smith and just like we have seen a serious evolution with Damon in these 8 episodes, from where he was in episode 1 to where, I mean, that moment when he just goes and helps his brother into the throne and puts the crown back on his head. Just all of them just coming out of the eyeballs. And because he knew that Viserys wasn't going to let anyone help him. He knew, he's like, but if there's one person who's not going to give him the option to do this on his own, it's going to be me. And he makes that point, and it really shows something we've talked about since day one, is at the end of the day, Damon just cares about his family. And I'm very impressed with how Matt Smith has handled this character so far. You guys are the book nerds. How does this compare to how Damon's been portrayed in the books, to how we're seeing him in the show?
Well, as I've said multiple times too, the books is like a textbook. So it's really devoid of emotions, more and more of like, this is what happened, and this is what happened, this is what happened. So in the show, we're really getting the emotional backing of the characters. Like, you knew that kind of in the books that like he loves his family and loves his brother, and that could be the motivation for his stuff, but like you're really not getting emotional stuff from the books. You're getting more like events and sequences.
Okay, I got you. I didn't know how well. I wasn't sure how much they portrayed him from an emotional standpoint.
He was notoriously like the bad boy. You know, they always reflected back to when he was commander of the City Watch and how he was, ruled with an iron fist in the streets of King's Landing. But yeah, seeing the way he helped Viserys onto the throne last night, that's not something that we would have ever read about Daemon in the books. Because we knew that he cared a lot. We knew that overall he wanted to see his family succeed. But we never really saw a soft spot. There wasn't really ever a soft spot mentioned in the books. He was always kind of portrayed as the bad boy kind of character. So to see that last night, I thought it was a great job by Matt Smith and a great job by the writers to give us that kind of, opposite of how he's been portrayed so far. and really show that that warm heart that he's got.
Yeah, one other thing I want to get into before we get into the two kind of big dramatic moments that everybody's going to want to talk. We all know what the two big moments are they want us to talk about, but the other thing I want to talk about is the relationship with Rhaenyra and Alicent. Once again, we're going through this cycle of like they're besties and they hate each other, then they're besties, and now it's this time it felt less like we've got over our bullshit and more of just a like no, like we're being stupid right now, like. You love my father because you're his wife. I love him because I'm his daughter. He's right. We are family. Let's like we're goddamn adults. Like enough of this shit. And to have that moment where she's like, "Hey, we're gonna take the kids home." No, don't go. I'll take them home. I'll ride the dragon back as a flex, and it'll be fine. And we'll hang out. Until what happens at the end of the episode. I don't see that happening now, but the development of their relationship just continues to just really surprise and impress me because it's a constant drama between the two of them that I can foresee coming in and out of play well at the end of this season and into next season. So what about you? What do you think?
Yeah, and I've said this like before that they're not friends in the book. So I really like the fact that they made them friends beforehand because it makes their falling out that much more tragic. And in the book, they're really appeasing Viserys. So like she wears Rhaenyra wears green and Alicent wears like red and black, and they kind of like are there like giving the toast to each other, but they were it was more empty words. Kind of like, oh, we're making Viserys feel better and make him think that we're all getting along when we're not really. Where in the show, it was like, no, we are getting along. Our kids aren't because we've taught them to grow up to be little shits. So they're going to continue doing the stupid stuff, arguing that we were doing previously, but we like you could see that like, oh, there's the love and the friendship that is coming back, and like they're not fully at where they were before, but it's kind of like a step forward in that direction. And you kind of see what could have been if Alicent didn't hear the incorrect prophecy there at the end.
Yeah, Vander, what about you, man? What do you think about the way they're handling Rhaenyra and Alicent?
I think it's great. I think Saul explained it very well, where they had a tight friendship. They were literally besties growing up at court because obviously Hightower, I forget his first name, it's slipping my mind right now. Otto Hightower has been hand for a while, so Alicent's been at court and Rhaenyra is her age. I love that they played that into the show and how they've become great friends over the years. I love that they played the falling out, and I love because the Dance of Dragons itself, this whole war that is obviously they've been building up and is going to be the focal point of the show moving forward. It's literally about those two women. Like it's Alicent and her family, and it's Rhaenyra and her family. And yeah, they've each got their own champions. Rhaenyra's got Daemon. Alicent will have Aemond. But like, I love that it's two powerful women, two very strong, powerful women that are going to be the cause of this whole war. We're so used to seeing fantasy shows where it's the men's conflict. It's always the man versus the man. The women have nothing to do with the actual war itself. So I love that they've built it up to where like it's two strong women that are going against each other and their families. I think that's incredible.
Yeah, it's about time two women caused some drama. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Find me on Twitter. It's right there. It's an interesting take because I think they've said that like basically season 1 is all set up for what's coming in season 2. Season 2 is going to be just all just balls to the wall. Just it's going to be like kind of the Game of Thrones that we're used to.
That's how Game of Thrones was. Season 1, it was the build up, lots of conspiracies, secrets, accusations being thrown around, and then bam, Ned Stark's head gets slapped off, and now it's a full blown war, the War of the Five Kings that broke out over that one incident, and now we're about to see
miscommunication.
Literally.
Yeah.
It's all on a lie. War starting over lies. It's incredible.
war starting over lies and also a little bit over some truths being because we get Corliss's brother
Vaymond.
Not to be confused with Amond. Seriously, guys, come on.
There's a V there. Come on, Mike.
Okay, Vanilla Ice. I added an extra beat that makes it a different song. So he wants Driftmark. He thinks he's entitled to Driftmark, being the brother of Corliss, despite the fact the king has already said, "Hey, it's going to be Jake with the younger
Luke.
No,
yeah. Luke. Yes.
I don't know which one's which. Anyway, that
Chase
one
is the
is
older
going to
one.
be his, and that they're going to marry their cousins, and it's because they're Valerians or Targaryens is what they do. So they're going to marry them.
Cousins, step siblings, slash aunt,
Game
uncle,
of
slash.
Thrones. If they got a pulse into the opposite gender, then they're fair game. That's how this show works.
Someone online said the Targaryen tree is a pretzel.
But honestly, the girls seem into it because when they found out, they were just kind of like, "Oh yeah, like okay, get excited, queen, okay." But he shows up to court, and I told a friend of mine, I said he came to Westeros with one plan, and that was either get his throne or die spilling tea. And he chose to die spilling tea.
The prince fuck around and find out Daemon.
I guarantee he knew that if he didn't get what he wanted, he knew he was going to die that day. He was like, if I can't get this, then screw it. I am ringing the bell for everyone to hear, and damned what happens to me, because he got the top of his head lopped off.
I feel like the minute he saw King Viserys walk in, everybody involved in that, literally everybody who's an adult and knows what's going down, knew that Vaemond was about to get fucked up the minute King Viserys showed up. Daemon, you saw it on Otto's face, Allison's face, Rhaenyra was smiling. Everybody knew Vaemond is about.
Aegon was laughing too.
And Daemon just had this look in his eye of like, oh, I do get to kill something today.
Yeah.
But also, shout out to the animators, because when he lops off the top of his head, they had the foresight to make sure that parts of his braids got cut where the sword was swung. I thought, I was like, you know what? Well done, animators. I think a lot of people would have missed that. Well done.
In his tongue at the bottom, he can keep his tongue.
I've been sharing that meme all day of the South Park Britney Spears thing when she blows the top of her head off and is walking around with her tongue flopping around everywhere, because that's what it reminded me of. And then they're all like, quick, disarm him. He's like, don't bother, wipes his sword off, puts it away. Like, guys, you know who I am. Let's be real here. Bold move from Vaemond to just go, not because he didn't just go after the boys, he went after Rhaenyra. It was bad enough when he accused her kids of being bastards, which they are, but he just straight up said, and by the way, she's a whore. She's a whore.
So much emphasis on his words. He said they are bastards. She is a whore. Whore is supposed to be one syllable. He turned it into 6 syllables.
He added extra letters. There was a Q in there for some reason. It just. And again, I think it was once he said, because he almost said bastards, and I think that's the moment where he's like, I'm ready to die. I'm ready to die for this.
And Daemon also egging him on, which I want to ask you guys, when they're talking in the small council, Vaemond, Otto, and Allison, there's a view from the same view where Daemon hiding spot was to be able to watch, and we don't see like him watching, but I was like, I think he's in that little crevice there watching them and knows what's about to go down, and he's like, ooh, I'm just ready for this.
Daemon's always ahead of everybody. He's always he's always the smartest man in the room. Every single time. Anybody else want to add anything? I don't really have like. What did you guys think of this? We all know it was an awesome scene. So like, anybody else want to? What else, Vander? You got anything else you want to add to this scene?
Nah, I think we've covered it all. It was one awesome moment. Like, yeah, there was a lot of dialogue going on. Obviously, we knew what they were going to argue about. And yeah, just one awesome moment that just concluded the scene. Let's move on to dinner.
Yeah. All right.
And Aegon laughing too, where that was very interesting to me. Of Aegon just like they're just like having fun as well. Because if you look at both of their faces, Aegon and Aemon, like Aemon's like, I want to be like Daemon, and Aegon's like, this shit's funny.
That guy got killed. Yeah. Aegon they've made him into a very strange character, much different than the way I interpreted how he was in the books, with the way he essentially raped that serving girl, and was obviously slanging that dick around whenever and with whoever. Like, he's an interesting character.
And
very much
Alicent gaslighting there. Like, I was just like, ooh, I hate you. I hate you so much.
I was getting such strong Cersei vibes from her this whole episode.
Her outfit with like the chains hanging off of their gown, very Cersei, very much Cersei.
That's something we didn't mention, was like, in the time that the king has been ill, she's converted everybody to the 7 point.
So
much changed. Rhaenyra and Daemon did not recognize the red keep at all, because it was just 7-pointed star, 7-pointed star, 7-pointed star.
The sexual tapestries gone.
Oh, all the dragon porn's gone. Yeah, all the dragon porn's gone.
It's so dumb. Like that plays a part into the the falling of House Targaryen. Is like they're transitioning more into Westerosi lifestyle, when the whole reason the Targaryens dominated this whole country is because like they're the badasses. Like, it's their stuff that needs to be hanging up on the walls, and the dragons and the mythical and all that. Now they're just religious nut jobs.
And the fight for like a true Targaryen on the throne, where like your kids are more Hightower than Targaryen. They may look Targaryen, but they are Hightower to the T. Where Rhaenyra's kids are Targaryens, like, because they come through her line too, and they're being raised as Targaryens, so they are way more Targaryen than
raised completely from old Valyria, whereas Viserys and Alicent's kids are half religious nut job, half pussy dragon, because Viserys isn't even really he doesn't really have the blood of the dragon. He's just a human being that happened to be sired by two Targaryens.
And it's interesting because I wonder, because we've drawn some parallels between characters in this show to the ones in Game of Thrones. Like, what's his face is a lot like Littlefinger. I kind of wonder, we're saying that Alicent's a lot like Cersei. I wonder if, similar to the way Cersei's dad was with behind the scenes when he was the Hand briefly before Tyrion was like, nah, bitch. I wonder if Otto's been pulling any kind of the same things, because I haven't seen Rhys Ifans fight for a throne like this since Little Nicky. And yeah, I thought of that earlier today, and I was like, I can't.
Why did you tweet that out, man?
That was great stuff. But yeah, I'm very much curious if how much, because they kept cutting his face. He had like no lines in this episode, but Rhys Ifans is a great facial actor, and he was saying everything with the looks when the king's cousin says, "No, we're supporting this marriage with the cousins, so that way that they can maintain." And he was just kind of like, "Shit, oh, damn it." And then when Alicent says to Rhaenyra, "You will make a great queen," he's just like, "What are you doing? This is not the plan." He's kind of like Denethor in Lord of the Rings. He doesn't want to give up this power. He's not ready to give it up. He wants it all. So I'm curious to see if next week we're going to find out how much he's been playing behind the scenes, particularly with Aegon and Aemon.
A lot. I think they established that very early on in episode 1, him whispering into the maester's ear, and you see him do a lot of stuff like where it's not really showing you what it is he's doing or what it is he's saying. He's very much like Tywin Lannister. That's an excellent comparison, down to the way he talks, his motivations, the way he doesn't really ever smile, like he's always super serious. Very, very much like Tywin Lannister. They both, the woman they loved died earlier than expected. Like he's a lot of parallels between him and Tywin, and I think we'll see more of that moving forward.
And you see it too, just like in the way Allison grew up without a mother and with a father like that who is pushing her forward for political gain, and then now she's doing the same thing to her kids. Like she's a terrible mother,
Not doing well.
Yeah,
and Viserys,
terrible children.
Yeah, and Viserys, we've talked about like awful king, good father. He's a good father to Rhaenyra. He's a terrible father to Alicent's kids, and then
Agreed.
even at the end there when he's like my one kid, like to him, like Rhaenyra is his child, and fuck Aegon and Helena.
I thought that line was spectacular because he literally was like my only child.
Especially when he sees what shitbags his other kids are, he's just kind of like, yeah, no, y'all ain't it. No, it's just, you're your mother's kids. Like,
do you think their fourth kid, is it Darren or Daeron or whatever, his and Allison's fourth kid, if he's going to show up in the show at all? They're like, we don't need him.
If they can find a use for him, I think at this point they're not above. I mean, we've already noticed, you guys have said they're not above altering things to benefit the flow of the show. So if they can, like, even because remember, like she had baby Joffrey. We didn't see him again until this episode because he was not in the last episode at all. And now he's 6-7 years old, and then he was in a scene. He wasn't at the dinner with everybody else.
Yeah.
So if he's there, he might get like a non-speaking role or something like that. I don't know. We'll see.
And I think currently in this timeline too, he's in Old Town as well. So I was like, I don't know if they're just like, oh, we only have 3 kids, or if they're gonna go with them having 4.
Yeah. But yeah, so we get to this supper scene because the king, he's like, my family's here. Let's all have dinner. And he's keeping the peace. He's like, can't we all just get along? And everyone's toasting each other. And Aegon's wife says some shit. He keeps taking digs at Jason, Luke's betrothed. And so he's like, well, screw it. I'm gonna go dance with your wife then, bitch.
That was a big flex. And Helena was all about it too. She's so neglected by her brother husband that she's like, I'll go fuck with my cousin instead.
Well, because I mean, we see that moment when Alicent's berating Aegon, and then his wife comes in. It's like, has anybody seen our servant maid? And Alicent's just like, oh, you sweet summer child.
She's rich now. I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
And think about it too, where like Aegon is like, oh, I could teach you how to please your wife, or like, oh, if you're looking for something like someone to please you, come to me. And he's like, I'll show you how to please a wife. And goes and dances with her.
Show her some attention. That's all she wants. But it's the breakdown between Aemond and the younger one that really sparks things. I don't know which one of Rhaenyra's kids are which. I'm sorry. They both look the same, and their names are so basic. Jason, Luke.
Jace is the older one. He's going to inherit the Iron Throne.
Okay.
And then
I don't know which one was which one in the scene because they don't say their name.
If that cook wouldn't have brought that pig out, then so it's that cook's fault or that servant's fault. That's
what did it. Was I think at one point he's just kind of like, we're good. Oh, look, it's a pig. Oh shit.
Well, and then that look that Lucerys gave to Aemond, because Lucerys is the one that's responsible for Aemond having lost his eye. This is the first time they've really, sat down with each other since that event 6 years ago. So the way he kind of smirked over it, Aemond, it sparked a debate. And I love Damon's line too, by the way, where he was just like, I forget the compliments he gave him, but
you guys are
very strong boys.
Strong, aren't you? You're strong. And the first time he said it and everyone got tense, I was like, wait, I don't get it. And the second time I was like, oh, you bitch.
And he was like, I'm just complimenting them.
Yeah. And I just want to say too, Bela immediately gets up to like, which shows you that like her father like taught her to throw hands. Like Daemon
and her mom too, even at a young age. Her mom is a badass.
Yeah.
Plus, I feel like in the time they've lived with Rhaenyra and Daemon, they've probably been like, look, people are going to be coming after us. y'all are gonna learn to take care of yourselves. Like
Yeah.
you're not.
But
always
like
gonna be there.
Rhaenyra holds her back because she was getting up ready to scrap.
Because I think in the scene, and I so the one of Daemon's kids is living with their grandmother,
Yeah.
right? Back on at Driftmark, and the other one's living with the one that I guess was sad because she didn't have a dragon. Is the one I think because her and Daemon had kind of a weird relationship. Yeah. But yeah, they were ready to throw down, and it just, this family. You know what, Viserys, buddy, we're gonna miss you. Run. The only way to get away from this fucking family is to die. Just do it, dude. Just be done. Get the hell out of here, because I can't imagine him having to sit back and watch the shit that's about to unfold.
I mean, at least it happened after he left, so he dies thinking that everyone reconciled.
Things are cool,
yeah, things are cool. But I just love Daemon doesn't have to say a single word. He puts his fingers up, one finger up. His kids stop, and then he looks at Aemon, and Aemon's like, "Game recognizes game."
Yeah, they see so much of themselves, and because they've also probably grown up hearing these stories about Daemon either from strangers or from Alicent and Otto. Because I'm sure Viserys, anytime he's talked about his brother, has probably done so cautiously but lovingly. I'm sure Alicent and Otto and anybody else have not painted Daemon in a good light. They've probably talked about him being kind of a savage and just this, and they've heard the war stories. So they see him and they're like, "Oh yeah, no, that's what we want to be. We want to be like Uncle D. That's what we want to do."
And they think that him and Rhaenyra killed Laenor too.
Yeah, everybody does because they're because Rhaena didn't lie. She's like, "I did not orchestrate having Laenor killed."
She did not lie. That is true.
Yeah, having him escaped, different story. But
this time she was completely true in her oath before the gods would.
Sure. Yeah. Absolutely. And that's all that anybody else needs to know about it. Did you guys by any chance watch the preview for next week's episode?
Yes.
Yeah, I did.
Okay. So we know that we're not time jumping. We are picking up right the hell away. And
something I've been telling my wife, because obviously it's been foreseen for a long time. King Viserys is going to end up dying. I was like, the second it is learned that he has passed away, a specific crazy thing happens, but like at that same night. But beyond that, it's just bonkers. Like he was a pathetic king, but at least there was still somewhat, at least a false sense of peace with him as king. Now that he's dead, I've been telling my wife this whole season, the second he dies, whether it be in the 4th episode, the 7th episode, whatever, shit is going to go down and it's going to be bonkers until the end of the war.
He was good at maintaining the peace, because even when things were tense, he still found a way to get everyone to calm the hell down. And while he may not have been a great king, he was a good man. And now comes the time, when you think back to early Game of Thrones, whoever sat on that throne was feared. People were terrified. It wasn't like, as far as anyone was concerned, the throne corrupted anybody who sat on it. With Viserys, people at least liked him. They weren't afraid of him more than you would be any authority figure. They had that weird, like, well, he is the king, but he was a kind person. Now it's going to be a lot of like, we don't trust any of these fuckers. No.
All he was able to do was he was able to diffuse the tension throughout his reign. He has never been able to eliminate the tension. He
kept it out of the public. He kept it to where it wasn't affecting the day-to-day of the seven realms, basically.
And that's what kindness does. As a king, kindness is only going to essentially delay the tension, but never get rid of it entirely. So because kindness is dead, and now it is off to the races.
And it's harbored in every other character as well. Like when he's gone, shit's gonna start happening, and they've just been thinking that the whole time. And it's kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy, because they're like, when he dies, shit's gonna start happening, and then it does.
Yeah,
we don't know what it's gonna be, but it's gonna be not good.
we're gonna start the fire. Like, because honestly, he's been out of power for a long time anyway.
Yeah.
Like Allison and Otto
At
have
least
been,
6 years.
yeah. Allison and Otto have like, oh, we're speaking for him. No, we saw the same shit with Cersei when her youngest boy was basically just out of the public eye. Oh, I'm speaking for him. Now this is what he wants.
Right.
Like, it's the same shit. So, but I'm
Even
sure,
Damon, how are you speaking for him exactly?
yeah. He is high as a kite. So what is he telling you guys to do? Because
You guys go get me a bag of Funyuns in the name of your king.
So you got to figure, like, all this time, because obviously things are as bad as they are at the beginning of this episode because he's been so out of commission, because they've been operating of their own accord, but also probably still kind of holding it back a little bit so people don't catch on. Now it's be like, fuck it, he's gone. Do something. Like it's about to get ugly.
Lawlessness is about to occur.
I know there's only so much
excited.
you guys can say. Yeah, you guys can only say so much because you've read the book. So, like, who knows you guys probably might know what's next. I'm just kind of sitting back, just kind of like, where's this gonna go?
I just want to say Rhaenyra's pregnant right now, so that's gonna play into it.
Yeah. Here's something that I've thought a lot about. It's from the beginning of the season. I've always known and had a pretty good idea of what is going to be the season finale, like what events are going to happen at the end of this season. Having thought that this whole season, I thought the king was going to die a little bit earlier. Because if I'm right and the season ends where I believe it's going to end, there's a lot of things that still need to happen in these last 2 episodes if I'm right about where they're going to end the season on. So if they're able to successfully and entertainmentally, I just made up a word, put all of those things in the last 2 episodes, I will be very impressed and I will be a huge fan of it. And I'll probably binge watch episodes 9 and 10 over and over again until season 2.
It's actually a trend we've seen with a lot of TV this year in general, is like they take their time and then they realize, shit, we only have 1 episode left. Everything okay, we're done, and they don't always stick the landing. It's been with a lot of shows this year.
Game of Thrones, they did not stick the landing with rushing everything in a 6 episode season for the end of the show. But I think I believe wholeheartedly it's going to be different.
I hope so, because they've got a lot to prove. I mean, they've got to,
and they have the original material at their disposal. They don't have to come up with their own shit.
They don't have that.
And anything that they veer away from what happened in the books, George is there to like help them make sure it makes sense.
No, back in line. So any final thoughts on this episode and thoughts on where we're headed next for the last 2 episodes of the show?
How do I say without spoiling the book? That's the hardest part. You can put your headphones back. This episode was amazing. There was tearjerker moments. There was moments like, it's just, I kind of like Aegon like laughed a little when it's like, because you're like, oh, and then you kind of like laugh a little bit, like Tasha get hit, like Damon fuck around and find out, like. But so this show just keeps getting better and better. I feel wholeheartedly they're gonna stick the landing. They have time. They can do a second season and onward. So they got time to really flesh out the absolute bonkers, batshit crazy crap that's about to happen in this show.
Vander, what about you, man?
Like I said earlier, I think I'm pretty confident that I know where they're going to end this season. And like I said, if I'm right, then these last 2 episodes are going to be bonkers. Also, I'm very much looking forward to the infamous 9th episode, because notoriously throughout Game of Thrones, the 9th episodes are always crazy. Ned Stark gets decapitated in the 9th episode. The Battle of Blackwater in season 2, 9th episode. The Red Wedding, 9th episode. The Battle at the Wall, 9th episode. I forget where they went moving forward. Like after season 4, they obviously started to do their own thing. So maybe that wasn't a trend that continued. But when George R.R. Martin played a part in it, they always made
Battle of
sure
the Bastards was
the
episode
craziest
9,
shit.
season 6.
Exactly, 9th episode.
Yeah, so that you can come down from it and then have stuff for season 2, or like the next season.
They always want to show us the aftermath of whatever crazy shit's gonna go down in the 9th episode. They at least give us a glimpse of the aftermath, which is always very good for entertainment, and they're still usually able to include a crazy scene or two in the finale of the season.
Which I think is just kind of a good trend for TV in general. I mean, even shows like She-Hulk, we're seeing that, where this past week was their penultimate episode and everything hit the fan, and now we have the finale this week to see how it's all going to tie up. So yeah, I mean, that goes for a lot of shows. To the penultimate episode of a season is usually just shit hits the fan, and then the finale is, how do we clean up this mess?
Right.
So yeah, and just from the previews for next week alone, it's like these doors do not open until we are done. It's so we're Inglorious Bastarding this shit. Oh, okay. Gotcha.
And that's immediately after they find out too. Like in that council chamber, we're gonna see a hell of a scene. Lots of good dialogue, and a couple moments that are gonna be jaw dropping.
Shout out to Kristen Cole, who has not aged a day since episode 1. By the way,
he looks younger.
Yeah, how?
It's been 19 years. How is he looking that good?
I would say also pay attention to Lord Breezebury. I think that's the way you say his name. He was the one who was silenced by Alicent in this last episode. Like, oh, we've heard enough.
That guy.
That guy.
Oh, man.
The accountant? Okay.
Yeah. Pay attention.
To say.
Yeah, pay attention to him.
All right. So, man, lots to unpack with this one. Next week and the finale are going to be nuts. I'm looking forward to it. I am so excited to see where they go with the rest of the season. I thought Viserys wasn't going to die till the finale. So now all my theories are out the fucking window. So I'm looking forward to next week. You guys are looking forward to next week. We want to know what you all thought down in the comments. So make sure you guys let us know. Make sure you like the video, hit subscribe, turn on that notification bell so you know when we got stuff dropping. We have stuff dropping all the time. Our Werewolf by Night watch along is up now. Go watch it. It was a pain in the ass to edit, so please go watch it. I had so many computer problems editing that thing, so everyone go watch it and justify my labor. Now that's off my chest. Thank you guys for watching. We'll see you guys again next time on Off the Wall. Bye.
Daddy Damon.
I'm leaving that in.